Hi!
Hello!
Today we're going to talk about the first few months of our travel. We started off from Cadillac, Michigan. We drove all the way down in one day, all the way down.
Too long.
Yeah, that was a very long day. Ooh. To St. Louis, Missouri. Basically, we were in the floodplain of the Mississippi River. So when we would go to the park that we stayed at, you would actually drive over a berm, and then you would go down into the park, and then that's where the campground was. You could see like the main office was a trailer so that they could pull it out. And I think that they had like a bunch of big like pavilions,
yeah.
But they were all made of concrete block and steel so that if there ever was flooding, basically, I guess.
They were high.
Yeah,
they had high roofs.
You pressure wash it and good to go again.
Oh no, that was done on purpose. Can't move.
All right. So there was three pretty big things that we did when we were in the St. Louis area. First one was Gateway Arch. At the time, it was not a national park, but we still kind of count it as our first national park. It really didn't become a national park for 2 or 3 months until after we left.
They were renovating a large portion of it to become the national park.
Mm-hmm. So we still got to go up in the arch and do the whole tour thing, and that was pretty cool. But yeah, I think a lot of the museums and stuff down below were all closed.
Yeah, which is fine.
The second thing we did, we took a day trip to Meramec Caverns. That was a pretty neat place.
Yeah, that's not something I've experienced before. We have like a big ballroom down below and everything.
Mm-hmm.
And by ballroom, I mean just a really big cave.
So I think when they said that it was originally discovered, they basically just used the front part of it, and it wasn't until much later on that they even knew the back half or back 90% of the cave even existed.
Yeah, I think if I remember correctly, they just didn't care. Like, it was cool enough in this like ballroom type area that in the summer they'd go down there and they'd literally just have dances so they could stay out of the heat.
And then the last thing we did, we went to the Anheuser-Busch Brewery.
And it's so cool. I don't even care for beer that much. Although in beer league I can handle a Bud Light. That's about it.
But I mean, we've seen a couple smaller breweries, and it's really interesting to see just the sheer scale that they're brewing in there.
Yeah, for me, I like historic stuff too. So just like a company that recognizes how old they are, but also like fully embraces it. Like, they still have all their old buildings. They keep them looking gorgeous and pretty historically accurate. And they still use them too.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, they do have the modern canning and bottling facilities now, but I mean, all your tanks and everything are still in those buildings that are 100 years old.
Mm-hmm.
And they're gorgeous.
And of course, we got to see the Clydesdales.
And they're gorgeous too. So I think another really important part of our trip to St. Louis is just the fact that, I mean, we had stayed there for
a month.
So it was really, and this is, I think, the big reason that I wanted to travel is that amount of time gives you the ability to actually experience the local area and get familiar with it. Not only did we stay in the city campground, city maintained and decently priced, but they also had like their own sports complex, which we had access to because we were staying at the city park. Like, it
was included.
Yeah, so
they had an Olympic-sized swimming pool
with a movable bottom.
Oh, that was crazy.
I had never seen that before.
And then for you, so I had swimming, which was great.
Yes.
And then they also had a sheet of ice.
Not only that, they had a running track, they had weight rooms, they had everything.
Mm-hmm.
And that was amazing.
So from St. Louis, we pretty much booked it again all the way across the country. I think we stopped off somewhere.
Well, and you gotta go back a little bit. The reason we kind of had to book it is because we left Michigan pretty late. I think we didn't leave Michigan until mid-October. So that month in St. Louis, it was getting cold during that month. So we kind of had to come up with a plan. One, figure out where we're going, and we figured out that our goal was going to be to Las Vegas. And then how we're going to get there. And we pretty much sprinted across the country this time.
So I think we stopped a couple times in between. We stayed at a place, what was it? It was by Tulsa. That was the one time we experienced a place that had tornado shelters.
Yeah. And it was like part of the little briefing that they give you when you get in there.
Mhm.
Like, it's on the maps and everything. Like,
I mean, you're technically in Tornado Alley, and of all the places, you probably don't want to be in a camper in a tornado.
I was happy it was only one night. Yeah.
And then from there, we kept going, and we made it to Albuquerque. That was the first really, truly great campground we stayed at. Oh, FedEx is here. It was the first time we stayed at a casino, and we learned very quickly that
They're very nice.
casino campgrounds typically are very nice. One thing I remember is it was very empty. I think we went and used, they have like an outdoor pool and that was closed. They had an indoor pool, we went and used that. Are you really looking it up?
So yeah, I was right.
Route 66 RV Resort.
See?
Okay.
No.
We went and did that. The one thing I do remember is I think it was one morning we woke up and there were wild mustangs. In Albuquerque, we did two main things. One, I think they had the Petroglyphs.
Yes, Petroglyphs.
We got to see quite a few of those. Those were pretty neat. It's interesting to see these things that are, what, thousands of years old?
Yeah. But at the same time, where it was for me was weird. Because, I mean, this nature trail was, like, you look down and there was suburbia.
Mm-hmm. I mean, it was like on the edge of town.
So, I mean, one, kudos for them for keeping it neat.
We did one other thing there. We went to Sandia Peak. There's a tram that goes up it, and I think on the east side of that, there's a ski area. So we're basically on top of a ski area at that point.
It was very cold.
Oh yeah, because it was like warm down below and it was very cold up there. I think there were signs around like, hey, don't get lost because you might freeze to death.
Well, and I think also it's kind of a random mountain. So I think it's routinely pretty windy up there. And I think the ski hill's on the protected side, because the not protected side is just pretty much a cliff, which is why they have a tram.
Mm-hmm. After Albuquerque, then we continued west. We stopped first at Petrified Forest National Park.
And this was the only national park we drove through with the camper?
Possibly.
That's also painted sands, isn't it? The little like bottle of sand you get as a kid, and there's like all the different colors, and you can make them, stack it up and everything. It's like that, but in a giant desert. Then you drive south and you get into the Petrified Forest. They're so weird.
It just looks like, realistically, it just looks like hunks of rock sitting there. But then when you get up close, then you see that
it looks like trees.
Then it's bark, and it looks like a rock. Kind of looks like amethyst or something on the inside.
And the thought of somehow these getting buried and put up under so much pressure that they just turn into solid rock is pretty mind-blowing to me. I'm going to say that a lot about national parks.
So continuing west, we stopped off at Meteor Crater. We stopped at a campground just outside of it. I think it was right by the highway. And then we just drove in like first thing in the morning. What I remember is when we drove in, you kind of just drive up to it and it's like...
It looks like a mesa.
Yeah, it's just like there's something there. And then you just walk up a little bit and then there's a giant hole there.
Mm-hmm. Which is... I mean, maybe that's why I was less impressed. It's kind of to be expected. It got hit by a rock from space. It made a big hole.
It's one of those things like we're driving by, you might as well stop and see it.
Yeah.
Continuing on, we stopped at Walnut Canyon. That was the first time we got to see basically old dwellings, because there's a lot of cliff dwellings there.
Yeah, I think it was my first experience of like a canyon too, thus far. We had done like caves and hills and mountains now. But that was the first time, like, and I'm talking like a true canyon, like you drive up to it, it's perfectly normal, then you walk up to an edge and all of a sudden there's like a really deep canyon.
So we moved on from there and we drove, our next stop was Boulder City. Along the way, we kind of see a lot of Lake Mead. And then the campground we stayed at in Boulder City, that was the one we were watching the Grand Tour.
It's not nearly as bad as they made it sound. But I mean, it is kind of, it's a cheaper campground.
Mm-hmm. The worst part about it for me was the dog park.
We were across the street from the dog park, and this weird thing happens when you get out west. They don't have, especially in areas where like vegetation's not a big thing, they kind of use gravel in their dog parks. So I mean, RVers are all really good about picking up poo, so you don't have to worry about that much. But when you get to these gravel dog parks, the pea.
It holds well and kind
Yeah.
of smells.
I think we did more when we camped in Boulder City than when we moved to Las Vegas.
Mm-hmm.
They have a bike trail that is, it's a rail to trail, but it's from the old rail that they used to construct the Hoover Dam.
Mm-hmm.
So there's a whole bunch of cool tunnels and
the
whatnot.
tunnels are huge. And then we went to the Hoover Dam. We did the full tour of that.
It was a very touristy tour.
Mm-hmm. And what else did we do? We did one other thing. So we moved to Las Vegas. We were a mile from the Strip, I think like January 3rd or the 2nd, something like that.
Yeah.
But we really wanted to see New Year's Eve. We hadn't really ever been to a major New Year's Eve other than Detroit's. So we did the one in Las Vegas. We actually walked the Strip.
We did not stay on the Strip for fireworks,
No,
though.
but we
got
just kind of went to see the crowd of people, I guess, and see what was going on. They had lots of parties going on.
I think we actually watched the fireworks from a nearby mall's parking garage.
Mm-hmm. The parking garage had a really great view of the Strip. And
Yeah.
the neat thing about the fireworks is they go off from like 6 of the different casino roofs. So, and they're all timed together and they all do the same exact thing. So you basically are just seeing a view of everybody doing the
I
same
think it
thing,
was-
and it was pretty neat.
Yeah. I like being able to see like the overall thing. I think if we had stayed downtown, it would have been very much like looking at the sky and
Mm-hmm.
things popping off behind you and to the right. And so after Boulder City, we pretty much decided, like I said, it wasn't an awful campground, but we didn't really want to stay in that one. So we moved to a very nice, I think it was Oasis
That sounds right.
RV resort in Las Vegas.
They had really nice pools. I think we only ended up using it once or twice though.
And like technically the street that is the Strip was like half a block away.
Las
highway-
Vegas Boulevard.
Yeah, the highway was the other half block the other way. It was very convenient. So I mean, if you're going in a camper to Las Vegas to go to downtown Las Vegas, I would say that one was
Mm-hmm.
very conveniently located.
So we did one major other trip while we were in Las Vegas. We went to Zion and Bryce Canyon National Parks. It was a lot of driving. We were going to do a couple other stops. I think we were going to try to fit in like the Grand Canyon at that time, but it just didn't work out.
We knew we weren't going to really make it to Utah, and they have so many national parks down in that southern corridor, if you will. So we decided that it was worth it to take the time and spend the money to get like a hotel room.
So Zion was very neat. We did a nice hike there. I remember a specific place where we were like underneath a waterfall, and because it was that late in the year, there was basically a skating rink across the
We had
the sidewalk.
to like teach people how to walk on ice. But yeah, you had to like skate down the path to go under the waterfall and then climb a whole bunch to get on top of the waterfall.
Mm-hmm.
It was pretty cool. And there weren't a lot of people doing it, so it's kind of like one of those things where once we made it past that sort of downhill ice rink thing,
There wasn't a lot of people.
there wasn't. So it was almost all of ourselves.
And then at Bryce Canyon, I don't know that we did much hiking there, but we did a lot of viewpoints.
Yeah.
'Cause that's just
It
big
was also,
expanses.
again, winter, and that's one of those places where if you're going to hike, you're going to end up down in a valley somewhere in the snow and ice.
And then on the way home, I think, what was the name of the town? It was like St. George.
I don't remember it all. Such a whirlwind.
Well, we stopped and we went to probably our highest elevation, at least at the time. We went to Cedar Breaks National Monument, I think that was.
Yeah, that was very snowy and very windy. Did you even get out of the truck?
Yeah, I did. And you were like making fun of me because I said that the altitude was affecting me, which it was.
Oh, I'm sorry.
But I think that was at 10,500 feet or something.
Yeah, and you can just drive right up there.
Mm-hmm.
And then there's like a little viewpoint, and you walk out and you realize that the earth fell away at some point because
Mhm.
it's just gone.
So after we moved into downtown Las Vegas area, that was when the hockey tournament we talked about earlier was. Michigan Tech played in the Las Vegas Invitational, and that was at T-Mobile Arena, which is a fairly new hockey arena, and that's where the Golden Knights play. It was very loosely attended. I mean, there was a few thousand fans there total.
Well, and
in
it
an
was
arena that fits probably 20,000. So for us, I would say they
It was
had an
great.
alumni event, and of all the teams that were there, I think Michigan Tech definitely had the most spectators. So my parents actually flew out. That was the first time we had visitors. They came and stayed with us. I think they had a long weekend over that hockey tournament. And I think on the Sunday or possibly even the Monday after, we went to Death Valley.
right.
So
And
we
that
just
was-
basically had a very long road day, and we drove into Death Valley all the way down to the
that was
however many
a long
feet
drive,
below
Yeah.
sea level, and that was a pretty cool day too.
Yeah. I would say it's one of those things like when you're doing it, you don't really fully grasp what you're doing because it just looks like another desert.
For
That
today,
was our
though.
first time into California too.
Oh yeah.
And for everybody who knows Curtis's dad, we got him to step foot in California. It's a big accomplishment. Then it didn't involve skiing. I think that's
Oh
important as well.
yeah, because they did come and visit us later, and we did go skiing in California.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I don't have any more for today. Do you?
No.
All right. Well, we'll see you guys next time when we talk about a lot more about California. So
A lot. You
Alright.
like lived in California.
yeah, for like 3, 4, 5 months.
A lot of months.
Oh, well, all right. Until next time, guys. See you.
Bye.
Bye.